Hi there, everyone. I'm Scott, and welcome back to my 20-year film festival series. My previous video was on 7 movies from 1996, which, if you're watching one per night, means a week of the best movies of 1996. And now here's another 7 movies from 1996 that I think you'll like very much. First, From Dusk Till Dawn. From Dusk Till Dawn came out in February of 96, one of the early months of 96. It was directed, of course, by Robert Rodriguez and written by Quentin Tarantino, two guys who have been friends for a long time and will continue to be probably until they're both dead. It's a vampire movie set in New Mexico, or New Mexico and then Mexico, I think, or maybe it's Texas. I forget exactly. But they're two brothers, basically, who are criminals, career criminals and bank robbers, played by Tarantino and George Clooney, and they take a family driving Winnebago hostage and demand that they help them get across the border into Mexico where they'll be safe. The gentleman driving the Winnebago is played by Harvey Keitel, and he has a couple of kids, one of whom is played by Juliette Lewis. And once they get across the border, they are supposed to meet up with some other gangsters, or criminals, but it turns out the bar they picked is actually full of vampires, and they close up the place once the sun goes down and attack everyone. No, the sun's already down, of course, yeah, because they're vampires. They can't be open during the day. So the gang basically has to get together with whichever other people are hanging out in the bar, people like Tom Savini and Fred Williamson, to fight them off. It's a really, really fun movie. Got a lot of great Tarantino dialogue, some of which seems to have been borrowed from other Tarantino scripts, like, okay, Ramblers, let's get rambling. That's something that was said in Reservoir Dogs. But yeah, fun movie, a lot of fun. Then Fargo. Fargo is a movie that got Joel and Ethan Coen a lot of Oscar attention. They've been nominated for a number of times since then, but this is the first time they were nominated for Best Picture and Director and such. At the time, only Joel Coen was getting the credit for directing, even though they were both doing that. This movie, of course, is about a police officer who's played by Frances McDormand, who's investigating a triple homicide in Minnesota, and she believes that William H. Macy is involved, and also, of course, Peter Stormare and Steve Buscemi are involved as well. A really good movie. It's one of the Coen brothers' best films. Really liked it for a long time. Then there's the Danny Boyle film Trainspotting. I believe it was just the previous year, or perhaps it was '94, that Shallow Grave came out. And Danny Boyle, it was a big success for Danny Boyle on an indie level, and he followed it up with this adaptation of an Irvine Welsh book called Trainspotting, about a group of heroin users, and Ewan McGregor, of course, plays the main character once again, Renton. It's a bit of a classic now, I think, the film, but it's one of those extremely lively, very, very dynamically shot and edited films. Danny Boyle's style has changed quite a lot since this film, and I sort of feel like this is sort of like pure Danny Boyle right here, at least as far as his style goes. But an argument can be made for, movies like Slumdog Millionaire and 127 Hours and what have you. As I understand it, Danny Boyle is actually taken over directing the Steve Jobs movie that David Fincher was going to do, that's written by Aaron Sorkin, so that'll be very interesting to see. But Trainspotting's, a really fun movie, of course. And also scary and depressing in some places as well. It is about drug users, of course, drug addiction. Ransom is my favorite movie, probably directed by Ron Howard, and definitely my favorite movie starring Mel Gibson. I've grown to dislike Mel Gibson quite a bit in recent years, but this is still a decent movie. And it's a good thriller. Mel Gibson is the CEO of an independent airline company. He's married to Rene Russo, who of course was his co-star in some of the Lethal Weapon movies. And their son is kidnapped by Gary Sinise and a gang of petty criminals. And instead of paying the ransom, Mel Gibson goes on TV and offers a reward to whoever who can tell him exactly where his son is and how to get him back. So it's a battle of wills. It's a strategic battle of high-stakes poker in the real-world, life-threatening situation. It's a really, really good movie. A lot of really good sequences as far as camera work and editing and the score and everything like that. A really, really good thriller. Another good thriller, which has sort of a satirical twist to it, of course, is Scream. The first of the Scream movies. Wes Craven, of course, directed this movie from the Kevin Williamson screenplay, and you've got the ensemble cast dealing with the horror movie cliches, and they know them all so well, but the killers are sort of patterning the murders on slasher movie rules. Such as don't say I'll be right back, and don't drink too much, and don't make sure you always look behind you, things like that. It's a very, very clever movie. Really a lot of fun. I was quite certain this movie would win the MTV Movie Award when it came out, and it did. Good on MTV voters for that. As I mentioned in the previous video, Edward Norton was having a very good year. He was in The People vs. Larry Flint, but prior to that, in the early months of the year, he was in Primal Fear, in which he played a murder suspect named Aaron Stampler. And Richard Gere is the main character. He's his attorney. He takes on his case. As it turns out, Edward Norton has multiple personality disorder. So he's a very meek and very deferential most of the time, but then he reverts to the aggressive personality. There's a lot of really good people in this movie. Alfre Woodard, Laura Linney, John Mahoney, Frances McDormand is also in this movie. She was in Fargo, of course. She plays a psychologist. It was directed by Gregory Hoblit, who went on to do a movie called Fallen with Denzel Washington, and Frequency with Jim Caviezel and Dennis Quaid. Good director. Haven't seen much from him lately, but I do like all those movies. And the last 1996 movie I'd like to talk about was my favorite movie of that year, although technically, according to the Oscars, it came out the previous year, but it actually came out in January here in Chicago, and that is 12 Monkeys, my favorite Terry Gilliam movie. Brazil, of course, is really good as well, but 12 Monkeys is a great movie. It's a time travel story. Bruce Willis is a guy from the future who comes back to try and stop a virus from being unleashed, or at least get a pure sample of it, so that people in the future can develop a vaccine for them so they can actually go outside. They have to live underground in airtight areas. Brad Pitt is in this movie as well, Madeline Stowe. It's just a really, really great movie, and unexpectedly moving. Some of these science fiction movies with weird concepts actually get me really emotional, and this is one of them. Terrific movie. Always like that movie. So that is my, that finishes up 1996. The next one I'll move on to will be, of course, 1997. A really, really fun year. Lots of good movies came out in 97, so I hope you tune in for that, and I will see you again real soon. Bye.